I'm your host, Christina Silva. We're educating our veterans live with a very special guest. Now, you know, I put the heroic spotlight on all of our guests that are subject matter experts and trailblazers. And today is no different. We are ready for any time things go wrong, we transform, adapt, and overcome. And I get the opportunity to tell you about the stories and lives of our armed forces and our first responders. And today, our wonderful spotlight is on law enforcement. Yes, our special guest is Allyn T. Goodrich, and he joins us to tell us about the life of a SWAT officer. He has so many talents, and he's lived the life learning how to cope, and his mechanisms are strong. We are October strong today. That's why author Allyn T. Goodrich is on the Christina Silva Show. Allyn has been serving, and he's a skilled officer with an active career in law enforcement since 2006, and he's a gifted storyteller. And that's what I am. A storyteller and a communicator helps others through their own life and through the lives of others. Everyone is a brand and everyone is perceived whether they like it or not. So, Allyn, I want to thank you for this portal into your life today and welcome to the Christina Silva Show.
Thanks, Christina. It's good to see you again.
This is awesome. Well, when we met, we were on the shooting range in Clark County at the shooting complex where I go to sharpen my skill and also to decompress. And we met, and everyone can see that you were kind enough to give the members of MCON and their guests a copy of your book. Mine happens to be signed. I don't know if the world can see that, but when you get a signed book, my promise to you has been kept to read the book and see your talent and to learn about how you used writing your book and journaling to cure and cope. So today we're going to talk about not only your book, but we're going to talk about your service career.
I grew up mostly in Las Vegas, but I'm originally from a small town in northern Nevada. I'm an Army brat, so my dad moved around a lot when we were really little, and then we kind of came into a small town in northern Nevada that nobody ever has even probably heard of. That's where I spent the majority of my young childhood. But then when we got into high school age, that's when we kind of moved to Las Vegas. But my family's originally from Las Vegas, which is why we came back. So, my parents go back to, my grandparents even go back to Las Vegas from the 50s and before. So it's kind of rare to have that Las Vegas lineage.
Yes, I hear with your siblings you had time to hike and be out in the open when you grew up, and that's very important as a child to have those memories. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Moving on to like your high school career, I hear that you were somewhat a rebel.
um, I don't know if I should say this, but we always have a joke. The difference between a good guy and a bad guy is the bad guy got caught. As a kid, I was a handful. So I had my fair share of run-ins and trouble in the principal's office, and I was not an easy child to raise. That's for sure.
Yes. Well, once you got out of high school, what did you dream of becoming? Because over the years when I was young, I wanted to be this cheerleading sports Laker girl, and then I changed and I became a United States Marine Corps veteran over the years, and I always wanted to communicate, so I wrote for the high school newspaper and was a photographer for the yearbook, and over the years, I've really gone after my career and made it what I wanted to be. Did you always want to be a cop?
Yeah, I was that kid cliche, when everybody's playing cops and robbers, I would never play the robber, you know. Um, yeah, it's always, growing up as a kid, we had like one TV show on our, bunny ear TV, and it was cops that would come in after school, and I would just watch it as a kid, and Las Vegas was always highlighted on there constantly, and so yeah, being a police officer was the only thing I could wrap my head around doing as a child.
This is so great. I have a picture of the front cover of your book, October Strong. And so the life of becoming an officer is tremendous, and you have many references in your book to those that are serving. And our show is all about thanking you for your service. So before we even get started, I want to tell the world about what the Las Vegas a policeman's creed is. It's basically the mission of the department. And that is the same to protect and serve everywhere. But when it comes to Las Vegas, there's an element and just a unique area that you're protecting. So the Las Vegas area is guided by the principles of this vision and mission, and that's to be the safest community in America, according to the internet, achieved by prioritizing human life, building trust, and injecting humanity into every interaction. Do you live that every day?
I do my best to try it. It's kind of interesting that you read what was on the internet because, I've worked in Las Vegas dang near 20 years now, and I've had a lot of leadership come and go. I've had a lot of sheriffs come and go, get elected and leave. But the current administration we have right now, it's not just something they put on the internet. Like if you get to know our sheriff and know our community, like they really mean that mission statement. And it's not just something that they say to make the public feel warm and cozy, that especially that last, like injecting humanity part. And I know it's really kind of weird to hear that coming from a cop's mouth where they think we just kick in doors and, get in shootings. But that mission statement that they say, our sheriff truly, truly believes it. He's a unique guy.
Yes. So when you raise your hand and you swear in to become a service law enforcement officer, what changed in you automatically the day that you became an officer?
I think what changed in me was, I always, like I said, I always wanted to do the job, and I felt like I always had the principles behind it, the noble reasons we all get into either law enforcement or military, and it's to serve. And I think I had those core principles anyways. I think just when I got the badge and raised my arm and had it pinned on my chest, it all became real that now I am not like Allyn, right? I no longer represent Allyn. Now I represent the uniform. I represent the people who came before me, the people who are going to come after me. And I'm now a part of something a lot bigger than just me. So now I'm accountable to those principles that I felt I already had, but now I have to live that every day. And that includes off duty and in your personal life. And yeah, that realization that now I represent the community, I think that's what was impactful the most.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, there's a lot of pride saying the term and title we earned Marine, and the title you earned and are currently serving in. There was a process that I want you to tell me about. SWAT. SWAT is Special Weapons and Tactical Officer. That is nothing to be shy about. Tell me about the process of becoming a SWAT officer, because that is a very detailed and long physical and mental process that you have to go through, and a selection process.
Well, I don't know. Have you ever golfed before?
I'm this is a funny story, Allyn. I'm still stuck on the driving range with all my golfing friends. I
Oh,
absolutely love golf. That's
okay.
in my bucket list. I want to go to all the military golf courses. I can do 9 holes right about now, but it takes me a lot of shots to get the ball in the
All
hole.
right. So you'll appreciate this analogy. So imagine you hit a golf ball, and I don't play golf. Okay.
Okay.
Let's just say that. But imagine you hit a golf ball and it's like a terrible drive, but it like hits the golf cart path and bounces like 400 yards and ends up on the green. That was me getting into SWAT.
Oh my goodness.
um,
That's
you,
awesome.
yeah, you got to get, I mean, in SWAT, I would never say that I'm like your stereotypical SWAT guy, what you would, envision and imagine. And tactically, there's guys who are way better than me. Shooting, there's way better than me. But what we need people who are coachable. We need people who are moldable, humble, and they listen and can be taught. Um, and so to get there, those qualities are huge. You have to be a great teammate. And then you need a whole lot of cart path bouncing. There's a lot of people who try out and who go through our testing process that don't make it, who are great people. But I just had that golf cart bounce.
That's awesome. And before becoming a SWAT officer, you held lots of different roles. And I want to know what the law enforcement career that you have, how has it like stretched you and pushed you and grown you as a man?
I've always been interested in always learning. I never like to be comfortable. And so when I started getting on special details on the department, I would do everything I could to learn that job and to be the best I could be at that certain job. And I don't want to say I got bored easily, but I was always wanting to learn new things. And so when an opportunity would come up, I tell people all the time, if a door opens, go through it, because you don't
Definitely.
know what that'll lead to. And so doors kept opening, and every time they did, I would just say yes, and I would try the new job, and I would try the new job. So anything from, I was a tourist crimes detective on the Strip where I was an undercover. I did a patrol detective in downtown, which majorly focused on violent crimes, robberies, shootings. I was involved in our intelligence unit where we did a lot of surveillance and undercover work. So every time one of these doors would open, I would just go through it willingly and relearn a new job.
Yes, I really, really appreciate that. There are two perspectives that you are willing to talk about today. And on the Christina Silva Show, this is a great honor because educating our veterans live, it marries the civilian world to the military and paramilitary world so that we can not normalize, but accept the conversation and be willing to learn about the sacrifice of service. So you've willingly told me that you would like to talk about the physical capabilities, the mental, the spiritual, and the social ups and downs of the journey that you're giving, and the way that you've given your life to your career. There are many happy situations to be thoughtful about, and there are relationships that have really contoured your experience, and then there's the side where there are things that are difficult to deal with and how you overcame. So I'm going to turn over the mic to you and have you just tell a few highlights about mentors that have helped your life, those that you can rely on, and how you go through your day in work. And have you ever asked for help? Let's start there, Allyn.
Okay, well, I liked how you said in your introduction how you're a storyteller, because that's how you relate your experiences to others. Um, I'm not somebody with a bunch of acronyms after my name about my education. I don't have a master's degree in science, and I don't have a psychology degree. I'm not a clinical specialist. So I really have no school learning in these processes or things that I've come to experience. So I've been lucky, like you said, what are the mentors I've had? I've been lucky to have been taught a lot of things on the job and outside the job that are easily relatable to me and that I can learn from and then pass on to others. So I have tons and tons of stories of just, supervisors who showed me in a light switch kind of a way where you click on a light switch and now you can see everything, moment in my life. So I don't know how much time you want to get into those, but those mentors I had as a youth or even as a young officer stick with me today. And now that I have these lessons, I kind of look at it as not only an obligation, but it's my purpose to make sure I give that to the next guy who's new, and that they don't have to go through the things that I went through, or if they are, then this is the way out.
That's so profound. I just want to take a moment to congratulate you that you have the baton of mentorship. Mentorship is a cycle. Mentorship is a hand up to the person and a revering respect for the person that helped you to learn certain characteristics that life will bring to you. And that's how you become strong. That's how you are October strong. So thank you for that. I haven't ever heard anyone truly say, now it's my job to be the mentor to those beneath me that are going to be in my role, or as a dad or a husband. That's another layer that we're going to talk about today, is how you manage your personal life as a family man and as Allyn the individual.
Yeah, the managing it's an ongoing process. I don't think that I have the silver bullet. I don't think I've figured it all out. It's still a constant process every day. There's the struggles, there's the drama, there's the heartache that comes every single day. So I wouldn't be one person to sit here and be like, hey, I figured it out. Like, here's the answer, because I really don't have it.
Yes. Well, this is interesting. As an author to the book October Strong, Allyn T. Goodrich is sharing a portal into his life, his personal life and his professional life. There's something about a law enforcement officer's role that takes a measure of privacy after hours, but you never really get a day off. So I want the world to know that as an officer, when you're trained, you are hyper aware. You're always situationally aware. And when you're out in public, even if you're on date night, you are aware of your surroundings and you're called to a duty when you're off duty. Let's describe that in your life. Give me an account that you can remember where you're off duty, but you're on duty. How do you learn how to relax?
That is a very, very difficult thing to do. And a lot of our folks are really failing at that. You can imagine somebody who's on deployment. You go out there, you wear a uniform, we're in a foreign land. Generally speaking, your enemy stands out and we know who they are. They know who we are. And so there's rules of engagement. It can be handled. It can be difficult, but then you get to come home. And then hopefully you can find a way to turn that off. Some guys can, some guys can't. For us, every time I get in my work truck, which is my main conveyance every day, I'm back in cop mode. So I have a work vehicle that's a take-home ride, and I have all my equipment and all my gear in it. And even if I just go to the gym, the minute I get in my car, the smells, the sights, the sounds, the light clicks on, and I'm back to being vigilant. So we really do struggle with the ability to turn it on, turn it off. That's a very, very difficult thing to do. And I know there's tips and tricks for that, but most cops don't really do well with that. And I don't know if there's a good answer to that, except for maybe when you have vacation, take it.
Yes.
Turn your phone off, get out of town, go see nature, go hike, go fish, go hunt, go play golf. Do whatever you can to take that time off where you can. They have that level of awareness from green where you're, heads up your butt, all the way to red where you're in some critical incident. And then cops kind of try and stay in that yellow, orange ground 24/7.
Yeah.
It's not smart to be in that green zone, and it's definitely not healthy to be in that red zone constantly. So we try and balance in the middle here. But some guys struggle with that. So I would just think, I hunt a lot. And when I hunt, I take my phone and it gets turned off and I check it in 6 weeks. And that's a good thing for me. But, we just have to be good managing our time, because when you're home, you might turn on your TV and relax, but then your phone dings and your boss texts you and all of a sudden you're back at work.
Interesting. Thank you, Allyn. This is so key. So my job as the host of the Christina Silva Show is to bring you subject matter experts, and Allyn T. Goodrich is giving you such profound information. Get a mentor. Learn how to maximize your vacation time and admit that you have to hat switch. You have to become the professional. When you're in your truck, you have that attitude, those behaviors, and that professionalism. And when you're home, especially for your family, you've got to either get help or learn how to decompress, take the work hat off, and become the real person. So now the most difficult and exciting part of the show is to ask you about what you did in ways to cope then and now.
Okay. Like you said, that's the difficult one. Okay, crap. Well, being on probably the busiest SWAT team in the country, you can imagine we've been in our fair share of, tough incidences. And I've been doing this job for a while and seen a few things and been involved in a lot of stuff. And for the most part, it's the job, it's the call, you'll have another one tomorrow. And a lot of times you can compartmentalize. Yes. I had a specific shooting that I was personally involved with that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back thing for me. And I didn't handle it really well inwardly. I think outwardly I was a chameleon and I played off real well. I went and saw the doctors. I answered the questions I know they wanted to hear. And meanwhile, internally, I was really battling a lot of demons. And it wasn't my first incident that I was involved with, and it was definitely not going to be my last. But this one, for just some reason, really just hit home for some reason. And so, my life was not doing well, and I was drinking extremely excessively to, cope with a lot of the mechanisms to shutting the brain off. And I was doing about everything you could imagine wrong. Now, I would go to work and nobody would know it because I was decent at my job, and I could check the boxes and I could go through the motions of what was required at work. And, nobody really knew what was going on in my heart and my head. I really didn't, even be honest with you. But I did have a friend, and it goes back to that mentor thing you were talking about earlier, who, he was a retired Navy SEAL and one of our snipers. And I'll say his name because he's a super great mentor of mine, was Charles Mosier. And so Charles called me up one day, and we just had a real big heart to heart. And, he was the guy that encouraged me to start journaling. And I'm not going to lie, when he told me that, I was actually on an elk hunt in Utah, and I'm sitting in the mountains, and I'm like, I'm fine, Charles. I'm good. Like, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine is the biggest lie on planet Earth. And he will not let it go. He keeps poking and prying, and I'm like, I'm fine. But anyways, he told me to start journaling, write down that incident. And he encouraged me to write down that initial incident in great detail. He's like, put it in an envelope, put it in your cabinet, never look at it again. And so that's what I did. And I only did it because Charles asked me to. Mm-hmm. Had anybody else told me to journaling, I would have been like, whatever, dude, that's so stupid. But because of my respect and relationship with Charles, I took his advice. And it was kind of interesting because when I did write down my initial situation I was in, it really kind of lifted some weight off my shoulders. And I was not expecting that to be the outcome. So it happened naturally. Okay. And when it happened, I was lucky enough to recognize that feeling almost immediately, that I was a little bit free of kind of some burden on my shoulders. Mm-hmm. And so over the next few weeks and months, when I would start to, it's this up and down of emotions. We all have highs, we all have lows, and, sometimes we're right in the middle. But when I would start to get in my low modes, I would just kind of sit down with my computer and start typing out, stories that I'd seen throughout my career. And that became my process of getting out of those moments. And, you read the book and you could feel some of those moments are pretty intense. Well, those were the moments where I was just like bawling my eyes out on a keyboard, and that became my process, and that became my avenue for getting out of these deep valleys that I was in.
So I'm taking the silence for a certain very specific reason. One is to commend you for answering the call to the mentor, answering the call to yourself. Because if you're not okay, you can't do some of the amazing quotes that I read in your tear-jerking book. The book showed me that you were able to tell stories about some of the impactful answers to incidents that you performed, but the book also tells of the amazing history of fellow officers. Those were burdens on your shoulder too. So when you mention the word journaling, I want the whole world to know, no matter what burden you're carrying, whether you're military or not, whether you're an officer or not, or a first responder or anyone with DOD or DOW responsibilities, you're a person too. For the average individual, reading October Strong is the first step to self-coping that is private, because some people have a problem with asking for help. But with Allyn's remedy, you can help yourself by first attacking, recounting, and writing down what is bothering you. Right, Allyn?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of interesting that you say that, because that's something I've had to learn on accident.
Mm.
I learned that journaling and writing became my outlet, but that kind of shoved me into a world of, I guess you could say, mental health that I never expected to get into, right? I wrote this for my healing, and it was selfish, and that was the only reason I did it. But after it came out, doing interviews and podcasts and getting kind of involved in the mental and physical well-being side of this profession, and not just ours, but military as well, I've really started to learn the whys behind my why.
Yes.
And one thing I have learned is that writing was my thing, but it doesn't have to be everybody's or anybody else's thing. But I think the huge thing and the most important thing is that I encourage people now to find their thing. And everybody's different. Some people it may be faith, some people it may be family, some people it may be physical activity, some people it may be sitting down with a professional and actually talking. For me, it was journaling, right? Some people it may be outdoors. Whatever it is, when they first see that they have a problem, that's obviously, remember, AA, that's our first, recognize you have the problem. That's the first step.
Correct.
Being afraid to recognize that problem, and then exploring every single avenue that's out there till you find that thing, and then recognize that this is my thing, and now you can focus on the healing. Because without that, you're lost. And if you think about all the friends you've had in the military, all the friends that I've had on our side of the house who have killed themselves, these are folks that could not find a thing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so now I'm just at the point where I'm encouraging folks to find whatever it is that is their thing, and then hold on to it and don't let it go.
Yes. Thank you so much. Our creative resiliency solution starts with finding your thing. And that's a quote from Allyn T. Goodrich. And my quote to him when we met on that shooting range was going from hashtag bottle to book. The book saved his life and it opened up philanthropy for him, speaking on stages all around the world, preparing to write many more books, I hope. And Allyn is here today. He's an expert on the range. He found hunting, but again, that mentor. Allyn, isn't it possible to create a mentor today? You don't have to wait to find a mentor. It could be someone that you trust that you go to. Someone does not have to reach out to you. But there is a responsibility we all have to realize our problem first. And that is the way to get off the ledge. So if you're listening out there, we are both vulnerable today to tell our stories. And I'm going to give you a couple of quotes from Allyn's book. I enjoyed reading it so much. I read it in 2 days. And I actually, I'm sorry, Allyn, but I wrote in the book. I couldn't help it. I highlighted certain, well, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've highlighted some very important things about you because you grew up being a giver. You're just that person. You're fierce in your police work. You're an expert in shooting. You made it to SWAT after just a few years of other roles that you played. And it's a very elite position to make it to, but I would love to read a few quotes. Is that okay with you?
Yes,
So this did make a Marine cry. Marines don't cry, I told you.
I told you. I told you.
No one can do everything, but everyone
Can
can do
do
something.
something.
Yes. It makes me tear up right now because I found with journaling that I love that because I'm a communicator for my God-given talent, and that's how I've made my career. And another thing is volunteerism. When you connect and you start doing something, it also breeds something in you. So you found that your book and speaking to people and giving them the pathway to survive this life and to work and learn how to maximize your personal life and not let the vices of life for coping take you down that spiral. You are a winner. Another quote: storytelling. Sometimes you can camouflage who you are. Like you said, a lot of times I could go to work and get my job done, but you were hiding under this character. Sometimes storytelling, which is part of journaling, can come vocally. You can do that and role play with someone and they don't know it, because you have a talent. Everyone has a talent. And like Allyn is saying, once you find out who you are, you can do this. And I will read an excerpt. You said, seek to give voice to the brave men and women across America who sacrifice their lives to protect and serve others. So today, I have a huge compliment for you. You know the right way to protect the brand and agency you work with, but you're also a person, and you are the demonstration of camis to civies, your uniform to your person. You are serving and you're giving a voice to the brave men and women in uniform, and that is an extreme accolade. Thank you so much for your family service and for your service today.
Well, I mean, you understand this better than anybody else because you were a Marine and Marines are so unique.
Yeah.
But it's never comfortable to be told thank you for your service, right? It's never something we want to hear, but
Right.
it is important to understand that people actually are grateful for your service. Even though it's uncomfortable to hear it, there are people who actually are grateful. And when we put that line in there, I have to give a lot of credit to my sister. My little sister
Oh,
she helped me out a lot with the original editing on that. She's a very, very, very intelligent woman. And I was trying to say that, but she just said it really well. But that's what
yeah.
we were trying to accomplish. And that kind of came from, I remember in 2020 when we were having the riots, the, anti-police, defund the police movements and all those kind of things. That line right there specifically came from that moment. So if you can imagine, I'm standing on a protest line and I'm being spit at, bottles and rocks thrown at me, and shouted at, the most vile things you could ever imagine. True or not, they're welcome to say what they wanted to say. But I remember one night specifically, I was standing at Las Vegas Boulevard and Clark, and a group was walking past us, and they were calling us every word you could ever think of. And I remember in my head, I had a conversation with myself, and it was kind of like to the effect that these people hate me so much right now, but they don't understand that right now, if we had an active shooter on a roof start raining bullets down on this crowd, I would do everything we could to get in between the people who hated us and stop that threat. And I'm not the only one that felt that way. And so while we were being hated by these people, it was just heartbreaking to know that they don't understand that we're actually there to protect this very thing that they're doing right now. They have the ability to hate us and say whatever they want to us because I'm willing to get in between somebody who's willing to kill them for saying that. And that's kind of that motivation behind that little quote you read there. So it was just my heart and my brain that one night wanting to put that on paper.
Thank you so much. There are so many golden nuggets in the book October Strong. This one really, really sums it up. And I'm so proud for you to say this. Um, a small act of kindness with no expectation of even in small let me start over, everyone. I'm all choked up there, Allyn. It says a small act of kindness with no expectation of recognition, no hope or reward, serving and protecting others, even in small ways, like today, would be what smoothed over the rough parts of him and served as the absolution of his flaws. Oh my goodness. You just said, now that excerpt, I had no idea you were going to say that when you're serving, you're hated, but then it would flip if an active shooter came and they would need you. And then you're the hero of the day to all of the people and stories of many, many incidents back to back where you have to absorb that and still be true to yourself about the officer's creed, right? Why are you there? And I want the whole world to know, educating our veterans live, when we serve and raise our hands, drafted or willingly, we sacrifice it all. We're willing to die for the community, for people, for the flag, and for the agency's promise to the community. When you see that about a law enforcement officer, a military member, or a government agency, we're community organizations. Do you understand we're people?
Yeah, especially in the military, those folks that get sworn in and raise their arm to the square and they say those words, they're understanding about the bigger picture. Having to lay down your life for even just a set of ideals of what the United States stands for, the principle, the foundation of freedom, whether or not you agree with whatever political party's in power at the time, whether or not you agree with the conflict you're sent to, the fact that you represent those ideals and principles and are willing to lay down your life for it,
Yes.
that's something the world can't understand. And it's okay, because we don't need you to understand. We don't need the world to understand. It would be nice, but our core principles are bigger than that.
Most definitely. Everyone, this book is, to me, the book really identified what respect law enforcement officers deserve, and the narrative and image of who the departments are in every community. And once we figure that out, there's a gratitude that will instantly come. That's what made me get teared up in when I was reading it. And from every angle of the story you chose to highlight in the book, I could see a different perspective of what you would have to decompress from when you get home each day and take off your uniform. It's not a traditional 9 to 5. So let me ask you to define for the audience how important mental health is. Like, you're going to more than one call in a day of all different types of attitudes. You could be going to uh, watch a husband and wife have an exchange for a baby's child support visit. Then you go over to a robbery. Then you'll go here or there. Let me hear about the mental health aspect of what you have to deal with.
I think we're in a situation culturally, and also between the military, law enforcement, first responders in general, where I think we are in, I would say, probably the last 2 or 3 years, where now we're getting to a point where these agencies, these departments, the branches of government have understood that we got a problem here.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are getting comfortable talking about it, where before, when you were a Marine, when I was first came on the department, they used to call it shell shock, and then they called it, battle fatigue, and during Vietnam, they called it all these things. Now we call it, post-traumatic stress growth. And that, and so anyways, there's a lot of labels to it, but we're getting to a point now where they're not just saying, rub some dirt on it and tape it up and go back to work. Our organizations are now looking at this for the problem that it actually is. Now being involved in the mental health side of our profession for first responders, I'm now learning a lot about this. I'm currently involved in another organization where I work with a lot of doctors, people who actually have acronyms after their names, who can tell you the whys behind the why, which I can't. But being involved now with this, first of all, I commend all the organizations that are recognizing the problem and are willing and able to let us talk about it and address the problem. Now, I will say there's a lot of problems and there's a lot of solutions. We don't have it all figured out, but the fact that we are trying to right now is huge. And so we just keep getting better. We keep improving, and we keep adjusting as time goes on to the individual problems. For example, my agency now has created an entire bureau for officers' wellness. And it's not just mental health, it's also physical health. So we call it the Wellness Bureau. It's an entire bureau organization that all their focus is on is wellness, from sleep, physical, nutrition, mental, spiritual, you name it, our department provides it, which has never been done before in the history of our agency. And so being involved with it a lot these days, it's really kind of cool to see that people now actually give a crap and they're willing to let us figure it out. And we're not perfect, but we are getting better and better, and folks are actually getting help. And I'll give you an example. We've had a lot of suicides on our organization over the past, since the Wellness Bureau has been put in place. I don't think we've had one this year.
Yes. That's
Now,
excellent.
You want to talk about bosses and deputy chiefs, undersheriffs, sheriffs, always talking about numbers because numbers correlate to certain successes, right? Certain amount of arrests, crime goes down a certain amount, right? How about this for a number? 0. How about that? 0. You want to talk about
Yes.
success? There's a number.
Normalizing the conversation about mental health with physical health and fitness and sleep is the key, because when we focus on ourselves, we can be whole, but that is an action verb. Your wellness is a lifestyle. It's a new way of making sure that you're all right to do your job, because people enjoy their jobs when they're serving as a law enforcement officer, or else they could get out of the contract and go elsewhere with their talents. But I just want to say I am so excited that you are the catalyst for an entire bureau zone of the new way that a department is healthy and successful. 0 suicides. That is unheard of. And in this time of year, it's so great to have you on the show, because suicides spike in our area in Los Angeles about 43% in the military, of numbers that were unclassified. And number is rising with some of the new executive order changes. But there's an answer. Now we're all learning how important it is to make mental health that good discussion. So thanks for sharing. I'm so proud of you. And an applause to Charles, your mentor, for taking that step, journaling, and having no idea where it would lead. And you're going to some exciting places to talk to people. So tell us about how you developed your stage presence, and when you
Oh,
address audiences, how you feel before thousands of people there, Allyn.
I
First
wish
speaking
there.
engagement. Let's talk
I
about that.
I can tell you, I got into being an author on accident. I got into podcasts and speaking on accident. So it was never by design or by, I can't even find the word for it. It was never in the cards for me. It just happened on accident. So, um, getting out and speaking about the book and doing book tours, obviously people started looking at the book as kind of a mental health benefit, right? And
Right.
not my intent. And so people would start asking me questions like I was an expert, which I'm not. and, I don't have the answers, right? And so, like I said, it kind of morphed naturally where people would have me come talk about the book to a large group of people, and then in the process now we're doing Q&As and we're doing one-on-ones with the crowd, and people are asking questions that I really don't have the answer to. I can only tell you my experience, right? And that kind of just morphed into more and more and more speaking gigs, and it's kind of out of control. But we were talking about earlier that quote you had said, everybody can't do everything but everyone can do something. So for me, when I go and I speak, be it 100 people or 5,000 people, it's kind of, well, one, it's embarrassing because I don't want to be on the stage. I don't want the spotlight. I'm, as you know, a lot of people in our field, we don't like to be the head of this, right? We're not those people that want that recognition. I don't. But I've had to come with terms that what I have to say, people want to hear.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing for me to take my disdain for public speaking, but the message is very important, and I happen to be the person that gets to say it.
Yes.
And turns out I'm pretty good at it, even though I don't like to do it. I'm pretty introverted and I don't want to be in the spotlight. So it's kind of this what do we do situation. So I always kind of, when I go and I speak to these crowds, I get up there, I tell my stories, and people like my storytelling. I give them some great examples from life experience, like you had mentioned. And then, it's very exhausting, but at the end of it, I hang around and I get to meet people one-on-one. And when we talked about everybody can do something, I may not be able to change a crowd's life or opinion. I can't. I can't fix a crowd by speaking eloquently or delivering a great message. I can't. Maybe they'll find it entertaining. Maybe they'll have a laugh. Maybe they'll roll their eyes. I don't know. But afterwards, when I hang out and people come up to me, and I will be in hours-long conversations with people in the hallway about very, very, very personal issues. And I just
Mhm.
sit there and listen, right? I don't have much advice to give, but I can listen. I can be an ear. And so people will find me afterwards and they will just pull me aside for hours on end. And I think that everyone can do something. That person needed to talk, you know, and I've had a lot of those experiences where I've had some really cool people just on the edge of breakdown come up to me and speak one-on-one about stuff that they were really heavy with. So that everyone can do something is kind of a blessing byproduct of all the speaking gigs.
Oh, yes. There's a reflexive reward in those stages and such a surprise of blessings in the people that you meet, all because of the book. The book is kind of the, like I said, the catalyst to your true philanthropy. And that is healing for you on and on and on. So I have a question. How excited are you about beignets and gumbo?
I love gumbo already, so I got that one down, but I can't wait for the beignets.
Awesome. You have a very, very special event coming up in my hometown. Tell us more.
Oh, are you from there?
Yeah, I'm from NOLA.
Whoa, cool. Yeah, so, well, before I get into the speaking thing, I was recently in Gulfport, Mississippi, and
Ooh,
I got to go back there and move there because I probably gained 30 pounds. The food was so good and the people were awesome. But
yes.
anyways, yeah, I'm going to New Orleans, middle of November. I'll be keynote speaker for the Concerns of Police Survivors National Conference.
Oh,
And it's kind of interesting because the guy who was organizing it, you know, he had seen a lot of podcasts and the speaking stuff. And he's like, hey, we'd like to have you come out for keynote. And I'm like, okay, cool. How long do you want? And what do you want me to speak on? And he goes, take your time and do what you want to do. And I'm like, no direction whatsoever. And he's like, no, I want you to uplift people and motivate. And I'm like, I'm not Tony Robbins here. I'm not going to, you know, go out there and journal and be a good, you know, goal setter. I'm not Tony Robbins, but I'm going to get up there. I'm going to tell some wonderful stories. I'm going to relate some experiences, lift some people up. And hopefully I can get that one-on-one experience with some of the folks afterwards. Because that, for me, that's what it's really about, is that person who has the courage to come up, shake their hand, and tell you their story. And hopefully it helps and resonates with at least just one person in that crowd, right?
yes.
If one person in that crowd was going to eat their pistol and decided not to because of something I said for some weird, crazy reason, then trip is well paid off.
Allyn T. Goodrich is October strong and he's daily strong. You're listening to the Christina Silva Show. You can find a copy of his bestseller on Amazon. You can listen to the ebook and you can also purchase the book for keeps and write in it like me. There's so much to learn from each and every story of every chapter of the book, and it's riveting. It truly shows you about the essence of a law enforcement officer and how the ability to journal can save a life. Whether it's hunting, journaling, or authoring a book, find your why. Find your thing. Right, Allyn?
Find your why.
Most definitely. And in closing, I want you to tell everyone after New Orleans what's going to happen with you in the future, because I know that journaling is something that is relieving to you. I'm sure you're still doing it. Is there a book in the belly?
There are several coming. I'm close to being done with number 2. You know what? I'll tell people the title here on your show. You ready?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Thank you.
I've kept the secret. And if somebody makes a website and trademarks this before I get a chance to, I'm going to be super, super pissed. But it's going to be called Fail Strong.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, we're close to being done, but the process of going through the editing and formatting and publishing, that takes a while. So be patient with me, but we're almost done with it. It's called Fail Strong. And what we're going to do with this book is it's super unique because everybody likes the storytelling talent that I have. You know, my mom used to think I was just a big liar as a kid, but now I've made money doing it. So she can shove it, but just kidding, Mom. I love you. But what we're going to do is we're going to highlight stories in somebody's life that may be looked at as some sort of a failure. And then we're going to show people the way that they coped and managed to deal with that, and then to show their success afterwards. And so the whole point of the book is that we look at people in society as very successful, like, you know, your Jeff Bezos, your Elon Musks, your business leaders, your politicians. We look at all these very successful people, And we see this success because that's what's shown to us, but we didn't see the process of failure and overcoming their trials and obstacles to get to that point. Everyone fails. And we want
Yes.
to know that failure is not a exclamation point. Failure is a comma. And so that's going to highlight the process of these very successful people. But it's also going to involve storytelling. It'll put you in a first person kind of a situation seat. So it's going to be really fun.
Wow. From bottle to book and failure to success, he's in the midst of greatness, and his name is Allyn T. Goodrich. You heard it here on the Christina Silva Show. You can get book number 1, October Strong, and then you can learn how to fail strong coming up in the very near future. And if you're near New Orleans, make sure you get your ticket to see Allyn T. Goodrich. He'll lighten your day with just a journal. Bring a pen.
As far as family goes, we can't do anything by ourselves. My wife and I always talk about filling the gaps. Comes from a Rocky quote back in Rocky when he's talking with his brother about Adrian, and he says, what do you like about her? And he goes, oh, she fills the gaps.
Yeah.
That's such a profound quote that Sylvester Stallone wrote in that, and it's not that Adrian was some beautiful runway model. She was somebody that filled Rocky's gaps. And so family fills those gaps because be it a pickup from school, be it a ride, be it grocery shopping, be it laundry, housekeeping, whatever we're doing, when we fill those gaps, then we become a whole. So that's kind of a mantra that my wife and I always have had, is that we fill each other's gaps.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, this
Yeah.
has been a great show. And for the closing, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. I'm your host, Christina Silva with Allyn T. Goodrich, and we'll see you next week. Semper Fi.
Oh, thank you, Christina. I appreciate you.
You're
Take
welcome.
care.
You too.